Great. I'm recording this webinar, so I'll send you a copy later this afternoon. I'll upload it to a central space where everybody can access it. Thank you for everybody to being here. I know everybody has somewhere else to be. Life is quite busy now since we're moving out of the lockdowns and getting back to business. So I'll do my best to make it the best productive use of your time. And during this webinar, I'll propose a solution to start to address the unemployment time bomb here in South Africa in a much shorter time span, more cost-effective way and sustainable. And it's easy for everyone to get involved in South Africa in this, to the benefit of the people of South Africa, but also as us as business owners. Before I start, let me just share a little bit about myself. I'm Willem Gous. I'm the founder of The Human Entrepreneur, a business that makes entrepreneurship accessible to all through a unique human-centric approach to entrepreneurial development and business incubation, a true process created in Africa for Africa. I've been an entrepreneur for more than 22 years. I'm an international speaker on leadership, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Also have my master's degree in information systems management, not that I have touched information systems in a very long time. And I'm also a father of a 12-year-old. And I think like any other parent on this call, I want a better future for my son. And I think this is part of it. It's just some housekeeping. This webinar is in 3 parts. The first part is why we need to go small in order to go big in solving the unemployment crisis. Then we're going to go into Made in Africa for Africa, showing you that we actually have the tools that we need to solve the unemployment crisis. We don't have to go somewhere else. Africa can solve its own problems. And then lastly, I'm going to share a project with you on how you can easily get involved in this and help solve the unemployment crisis. Those 3 parts will take about 25 minutes, and then we'll go into a Q&A session. Well, that's enough. I see we are quite a few people in already. And let's start with unemployment stats. Now, I think you're all familiar with the unemployment statistics in South Africa. You know, we're standing at more than 35% unemployment rate. Youth unemployment at 65.5%. And South Africa is sadly number 1 when it comes to unemployment in the world. Many other countries have bounced back from the job losses that they had during COVID, but not South Africa. We're struggling. And this is bad news, not just for the average South African, but for business owners like you and me. And not being able to eat and care for your family leads to a lot of frustration. I want you to try to imagine yourself being a parent with hungry kids in your house. You don't have money and don't have any job prospects. And I can feel the frustration that parent must feel, the hopelessness. And I can only see that frustration leading to a repeat of what we saw, the riots and the unrest we had July in 2021. And you have to ask yourself, is that a future that you want for you and your family? And I doubt it very much. Also, imagine how difficult the business environment will start to get. We can't build profitable and growing, healthy businesses in a society where people are getting poorer and poorer by the day. You can choose to ignore this fact, but I'm sure it'll catch up with you eventually. And during the last State of the Nation address, the president tasked the private sector to solve the unemployment crisis. And I'm heeding that call. And I call on you and I invite you to join me on this journey, because when we stand together, we can solve this problem. Now, most people see entrepreneurship as the best solution to job creation and solving the unemployment crisis. And I agree with and support that thinking. Entrepreneurship leads to the expansion of commercial activity and creation of economic growth, which is great. However, the expansion of the entrepreneurial ecosystem within a country does come with a fair share of challenges. These challenges hamper the realization of the benefits of entrepreneurship, something that South Africa desperately needs. And let's look at these challenges individually, and then I'll also propose an alternative that will help us grow entrepreneurship faster, more cost-effective, and more sustainably. Our first issue is that it just takes too long. A typical entrepreneurial development program can be between 6 and 12 months long, and the outputs that they're looking for is usually a registered business with a few customers. I'm ignoring in this discussion the average theory-based entrepreneurship training because I don't think the output is necessarily targeted at creating actual businesses in a measurable and consistent way. Now, all these programs are good and well. I'm not here to break them down or tell people you're doing the wrong thing. However, what I want to highlight here is the mismatch between what's being offered and what's happening on the ground. Most people don't have enough resources to last them more than 48 to 72 hours. People are hungry now. They need a job now, not in 6 months or 12 months. And that's a problem. That mismatch is causing a lot of strife and frustration on the ground. Also, the longer term programs leads to some other stuff, especially when you try to address this mismatch between building a business that gives you money while still having to live. Now, I've looked at some pricing of these programs, and you're looking at about 150,000 up to 300,000 Rand per person. Quite expensive. That high cost makes job creation through entrepreneurship then mostly an exercise that big corporates and governments can do. And also because of the shortage of resources, only a select few people can have that impact. And we can only focus on a small group of people. However, South Africa has millions of unemployed people. Also, to remedy the mismatch between building a business that brings income and living daily, a lot of these programs supplement with a stipend. It's either calculated into the cost or it's an add-on. Either way that you look at it, it increases the costs. And that's a problem that we do have with all of this. And if you look at the incubation that we have, coming back to the problems, according to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, South Africa has a history of poor success and having one of the highest startup failure rates in the world. Even post-incubation, in excess of 70% of small businesses reported to fail, according to CEDA's report in 2019. That's why we need to shift our focus of entrepreneurship development to something that will be quicker and more cost-effective while delivering the same or better results. But in order to achieve that, we need to shift our focus on development and how we look at job creation. We tend to look at job creation through entrepreneurship as developing small businesses that employ people. However, I feel we forget that the creation of a business itself creates a job for the founder. The entrepreneur that starts the business thus creates a job for themselves. If we create 10 businesses with customers, with enough profit to sustain the founder, we have created 10 jobs. Now, people then develop the ability to create their own economy. And in order to do that, to address this, we need to go small in order to go big. We need to shift our focus from small business development to micro business development. And there are a few good reasons for this. I support this thinking based on the actual work that I've done, helping create employment through micro enterprises. The problem with the small businesses, and I know this is a controversial statement. Look away from micro business, from small businesses. Small businesses have great potential for long-term employment, have great potential to contribute to the tax base, but the amount of time required to get to the level of a small business is years. Anybody who's ever started a business, it takes many years to get to that level. It's like we cannot plant a tree and expect to, in a week or two, to harvest fruits from it, even a few months. It really takes years. And the same applies to the development of small businesses. It takes time before it delivers on that. However, there are plants that we can plant that will be able to give us food in a much shorter space of time. We need something that delivers on job creation and economic stimulation much faster. And I believe that is micro enterprises. My perspective, as I said, is based on work that I've done in this field since 2020, where I helped the bottom of society's pyramid to build businesses with customers to financially sustain themselves. Let me share with you the actual work that we do. So in November 2020, during the COVID lockdown, we took 57 young people, unemployed youth from Diep Sloot and Orange Farm, and they had to build a business in just 21 days. That has enough customers and generates enough profits to financially sustain themselves. This program created 30 businesses in just 21 days, of which 73% were female-owned. None of these businesses, and I have to stress this again, none of these businesses required any external funding to start. These businesses ranged from food to hairdressing to mechanics to school transport, internet cafes, social media marketing. You could see the picture on the screen now of the poultry farmer. She's on her way to doing about 500 chickens per month now. Even artistic businesses doing murals and so forth. We then did the unthinkable, but it was done on purpose to see. We left them alone without mentorship, coaching, or any type of support to see if we truly had an impactful change and shift in the mind of the person. And without support, without any help, even 6 months later, 53% were still trading and profitable, providing jobs for 25 people. A surprising thing happened. Over that period of time, an additional 14 businesses were created. Thus, it means if a business fails, instead of sitting there and go like, well, I don't have anything anymore, they simply start building another business. It shows that the training that we do awakens resilience, adaptability, and resourcefulness in people that society otherwise mostly see as, you know what, you're going to be a worker for the rest of your life. We continued this work in 2021 and we created another 75 businesses. What we actually achieved, ladies and gents, is we reduced the cost of job creation to less than 22,000 Rand a job. So why does this work so well? What are we doing differently? Why does it work so well compared to other programs out there? There are a few reasons. If I might quote one of the trainers that trains my program for me, he had his own incubator and he took more than 1,000 individuals through Lean Startup Weekend. And he said, I firmly believe micro enterprises is the answer, but I could never make that methodology applicable and relevant to the people on the ground who need it most. And he said, looking at your method, which is not Lean Startup, he said, you hit the nail on the head by making entrepreneurship relevant, contextual, and applicable to the people on the ground, to the people in Africa, to the African context. And that's what makes this different, is that it was made in Africa for Africa. We make entrepreneurship, as I said, accessible to these people. Not that I say the Silicon Valley model doesn't work. It works very well. I'm not here to slate Lean Startup and say we should throw it out. I've done the training, all that. I learned it from all the great masters. And the problem is it's not always relevant and applicable and executable to an African context. It's an opportunity-based model, and you need time and money to execute on that. Our process is targeted at necessity-driven entities. Also, we use the apprenticeship philosophy around it, bringing 3 key elements into play. It's training, support, plus your practical experience. So in other words, we don't just teach entrepreneurship, we make entrepreneurs with actual entrepreneurial experience. With our current training capacity, we can deliver 500 businesses per month, and I can double that capacity to 1,000 businesses or more in the next 30 to 60 days. So let's look at what a microenterprise is. I found a lot of people are not sure about what a micro enterprise might be. According to the South African government, it has 10 or less employees, and you have an annual revenue of between 5 million and 20 million, depending on the industry. Now, if I'm in a professional services environment and I have 3 employees and I'm doing 5 million a year, that is a proper business. That's some good money. However, imagine a manufacturing concern doing 12, 13 million a year with 9 employees. That is still a micro business. Micro businesses are a good thing to start. It's quick, and let me share some benefits of micro enterprises to you. So first of all, it's a shorter time to create. We reduced the time taken to create a job through entrepreneurship from 12 months to 5 weeks or less. Now we can create jobs in weeks and months instead of years and decades. And that's a very important thing, because people are hungry and frustrated now, and we need to solve unemployment now. Cost less to create. Shorter training time, and without the need of funding, creation of micro business is much cheaper. So more bang for your development buck. Also, failure is less of an issue. Because of the low cost and the low barrier to entry, it's easier to start another one if the one fails, and it doesn't take the entrepreneur down with it. It's also more inclusive. Because of the low barrier of entry, more wider range of people can get involved with us. And many people would argue with me and saying, but Willem, there's only 3% of people are entrepreneurs. And you know what? I don't necessarily subscribe to that thinking. Instead of the current approach of spending millions and billions looking for a needle in a haystack, give me the whole haystack, and I turn the whole haystack into business owners, and the high performance entrepreneurs will rise automatically. So we find the unicorns while empowering people to create a job for themselves through their own business. Also, it has a rapid impact on poverty alleviation and social ills, because people build businesses in a matter of weeks to financially sustain themselves. We quickly reduce poverty. It might also have a positive impact on social ills as domestic violence, GBV, neglect, and a lot more. Also, you have a faster and wide impact on the local economy. Imagine creating 100 new businesses in Diepsloot. That means 100 families are actively participating in the local economy. Think of the ripple effect that will have within Diepsloot. Now, I want you to think about the South African economy and environment almost like a garden that's dying of thirst, not getting water. Starting with micro enterprises would be like watering that garden from the roots up. And soon the garden will be green and growing and blooming, and the insects will come, and the birds and all other animals with it. That's what I'm trying to say is, through micro enterprises, we can cost effectively and quickly rejuvenate the economy again. So how can we solve this problem? What I'm going to share with you is a project that's simple to get involved with, easy, and it won't distract you from your core business, but you will have maximum benefits, not to the people, just to the people that you're helping, but to your business as well. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Pass the Torch, paying job creation forward. It's time that the South African people stand up and we solve this problem ourselves. You can argue with me, but I don't think it matters what government we plug in. It's this problem is just too big to solve for anybody. And we need to start from the bottom up, not from the top down. And through this project, it'll make it very easy for you to get involved and work with us and have a remarkable difference to the lives of people in South Africa. And it's up to us. So please pay close attention, and I'll show you it has a lot of benefits, not just to the people, but to you and your business. So now people can sponsor a singular job. Now companies as small as 1 million rand in annual revenue can be part of this initiative. We use a proven formula, the same formula that we've used successfully in the past to create micro enterprises quickly and efficiently, to get people to financially sustain themselves. Plus, you get tax benefits, BE benefits, and a lot of PR benefits out of this. Here are some of the benefits. We have 18A tax exemption, thus you get 28% on each rand you sponsor. BEE points for companies of 10 million rand and over. And you also share an experience. As soon as your cohort starts that you sponsor, we will send you pictures and videos. And it can be part of your marketing campaign. You can share it with your customers. Go like, look at the great work that we're doing. And you can also come and share in the joy on the graduation day and come and attend and hand over a certificate and be part of this process. Aren't you just tired of throwing money at something and it's you heard on some report that this happened? Be part of the process. It's a visceral experience. Also, we have administrative partners in place to make sure that we execute on the promises that we make. We have KD strategies that helps with the BE consulting, making sure that you get maximum points out of everything. We have Holly J Consulting, who's in charge of the measurement and evaluation, making sure that we deliver on the jobs that we promise to create. And then we have WVDW, Financial Services, making sure that the money is applied correctly so that we can get the maximum amount of impact for the work that we do. Currently, I'm just listing the Deep Sleuth Foundation. I have written commitments from other CEOs of organizations that have a national footprint, and I have access to more than 8,000 people that we are ready to take through this program. So let me show you how the program actually flows. It's a simple and straightforward program. We start with a pre-screening. Now, what we do there is somebody blatantly tells you, I'm just looking for a job. They are not a good candidate for this. But if somebody said, I've tried something, tried to start my business, but this failed and so forth, that is a right candidate because they showed they've taken some action. So they go through the first part, which is a 1.5 day theory training, the Entrepreneurial Awakening course. And through that, we help them to understand entrepreneurship from a context that's applicable and applicable to the environment in which they live in and the resources that they have available to them. We found about 10% of people start the business the next day or the next week after finishing the 1.5 day course, because they come to realize that what they thought stood in their way to start a business is not a reality, and you can start a business. Then we take them into a 4-week business creator incubator. And during that time, they have to build a business with customers, making enough profits to financially sustain themselves. Now, how do we do that? So we do a funnel approach in this. We take 100 people into the 1.5 day training. Out of that, we interview them and see their performance and how they respond in class. And we take 40 to 45 people into the incubator. And then we aim to create no less than 30 businesses or jobs out of that. But now you're probably asking, but Willem, what about those who fall out? Good question. If I get 100 people and I see 80 of them have potential to go into the incubator, I will take 80 into the incubator. If I create 60 or 70 business out of that, perfect. There's more jobs, more impact. There's no cost implication. I'm not going to come to you, listen, I created 2 jobs for your sponsorship. Give me more money. No, this is simple and straightforward. More bang for your buck. So I just aim for the maximum as much as possible. Even though some people will not go through and start their own businesses, the 1.5 day training is a beautiful work readiness training, helping people understand business, how a business makes money, the creation of value, how to unlock new opportunities. And it's a much better employee for your business, but also now we're schooling people to possibly work for the entrepreneurs that we create, because now they know how they're thinking and how they're operating. So what happens afterwards? Well, we'll do our best to try to feed them into any type of other program where it can ensure the longevity, because there's a lot of entrepreneurial development programs out there. Like I said before, Once we start with the micro businesses, the whole system energizes, and that will count the same for the entrepreneurial development ecosystems out there, because now we can feed them with growth ready, experienced entrepreneurs, and it reduces their risk, their cost, while ensuring their ultimate success. So how do you sponsor? Sponsor a job at 22,000 Rand. And then on top of that, you get your 28% back through your taxes. Sponsor 2 jobs, 3 jobs, or 30 jobs. Once we have 30 jobs sponsored, we run one program. Like I said, then we take the 100 people and we aim to create no less than 30 jobs out of that. But it's up to you. I implore you, everybody get involved with this. Like I said, even a company as small with an annual revenue of 1 million can get involved with this. Simple and straightforward. So let's look at other applications of where you can apply this. If you come to me and say, well, we're an industry body, we're a Rotary Club, Lions Club, a business chamber, or a church maybe, let's get involved. The church members can say, well, let's take all our business from our congregation, the business owners, and they sponsor jobs. It could be 60 people, 60 businesses sponsoring 30 sponsorships. They can go with 11,000 each. It can be the business chamber that says, hey, let's develop jobs in our area, in our community. Then also specific, look at towns. Imagine a little coastal town and the businesses pitch together and the community and say, well, let's start creating jobs within our town and stimulate the local economy. Also, this one actually came up while I was in gym the other day. I ended up talking to somebody who does public relations for a large motoring company here in South Africa. And I said, imagine all of your dealerships have a one-on-one matching. So if a customer sponsors a job, the dealership will match a sponsorship as well. And we do the training at the dealership, because those dealerships are so big and customers can see the impact that they have within the local community. So think about how your branches can get involved with this and how we can work with the local communities that your branches serve. We also downstream from skills development work. So if you already do skills development and having people learn a skill, but then sit at home and go like, I'm looking for a job, through this sponsorship, through the Pass the Torch project, you can turn that skill into a business and then really have your skills development be massively impactful in the areas where you work. Also, if you're passionate about reducing recidivism, helping people not go back to jail, we can help people coming out of short-term jail sentences build a business in a matter of weeks so that they can sustain themselves financially and not have to turn to crime in order to sustain themselves. You can also try this as a strategic way of your sponsorship. One company wants to see if this can create technology entrepreneurs in certain areas that will then sell their products as part of their whole offering on that. So we're busy in talks there. So think of how you can strategically use such a sponsorship to test new ideas and possibly find high performance entrepreneurs for your supply chain. Also, if you're retrenching employees, this would be a great way to help them to shift from career to entrepreneur. You get a benefit for your business. Also, a great way to feed your supply chain with people who understand your business, your culture, and how you operate. If you come up with something more creative, please get in contact with us, have a chat, ask us, is this possible? I'm always happy to find new creative ways to apply this work and help to create jobs. If you want me to help you do the talking, talk to your board, your management, or your community, reach out to us and I'll make a plan. The email address is there, hello@thehumanentrepreneur.org. So let's move over to the Q&A section. But as I ask you to get involved in this project, reach out to us, sponsor 1, 2, 3, maybe 30. Let's start with this. ladies and gents, we can't wait no more. If we keep talking, it's just going to get worse. It's the time of action taking is upon us. We need to start taking action now. And I want you to join me on this journey. Let's make a difference. We have the tools. We have something that works, that's been proven. All that we need now is for all South Africans to stand together. And that's why you're here on this webinar. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Let's get over to questions and answers.
Willem, from the chat, there's not too many questions. One of them was, did you focus on businesses that had already been established?
That's a very good question. Thank you for asking that. So the original 30 businesses that we did in the cohort, if you want, I had to pay somebody to do research on my work because I was getting flack in the market. My statistics are too good. 15 of the businesses existed. Okay. Let me explain. Only 2 of the 15 had any type of revenue. That would be a few $100 a month or something. The rest were dormant for up to 3 years. So of those initial 30 businesses, only 2 had initial turnover. The rest was just dormant. I hope that answers your question. Any other questions? Just raise your hand. Maybe if Graham can see that.
Okay. Yeah. Mlamuli is top of the list. If you can unmute yourself.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity. Great presentation. Just a comment more than a question on my side is that I've been in an incubator. I also do work in training. And what I love about this approach is that the yardstick, the metric, the criteria of success is not a certificate, but it's rather an income stream. It's rather that the person is actually doing the entrepreneurship thing. And I really think in the education space, we lost the ethos and the importance of apprenticeship at the altar of theory-based stuff. Not that theory is bad, but as you're saying, if I'm hungry now, would I rather have a certificate or would I rather have 500 Rand a week? And I'd probably choose the 500 Rand. So,
thank you for that feedback, Mo. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Willem, there's a hands up on the participants. Sipang Ramo Sepele, if you take yourself off mute.
Hi, Sipang. Just okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sipang.
Yeah, thanks. I think this is a very great and refreshing approach to building entrepreneurs. My question is, do you focus on what, or do you focus on improving or helping the entrepreneurs to improve what they've been doing? Or you also give them advice to say, look, this industry where you are is going to die in the next 3 years or 5 years. Rather move slightly or move over to this or change how you do things. Is that part of what you do?
You know what? If something like that is definitely imminent, if somebody comes to me and says, yeah, I'm going to start a newspaper, I would definitely go like, I suggest you do not do that. So yes, advice is part of that. But one thing that I found, once you get people to take the action and start developing the habits of an entrepreneur, even if that industry does collapse 3 years later, they'll just hop onto something else. And that's what you're looking for, is that adaptability. We need to get people to make that shift. So yes, we do advise, but my biggest thing is that if a business or when a business fails, that you simply start the next one. I hope that answered your question, Tsapang.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Willem in the chat, Gerrit asks, what are the key areas you focus on during the 4-week program?
Okay, cool. That's a very good question. Thank you, Gerrit. That's the application of entrepreneurship. everything that we teach in the 1.5 day, you have to go and execute. So that's why we refer to as a apprenticeship methodology. So it goes from finding new customers, delivering your product or service to them, looking at your numbers. We measure numbers consistently to make sure that people make money. And a fun little thing there, Gerard, if I may share, we found quite a lot of people when they go through the 4-week period will start maybe 2 or 3 businesses. So we'll go like, no, I did this business over the past 2 days. That was a failure. So I killed that. So I'm starting this one. And that's fine. That's exactly what we need, because our time frame is so short. People have no sunk cost. It's not that loss aversion. Oh, I spent 3 months of my life working on this. No, I spent 3 days. So let's start another one. I hope that answered your question.
And then Gina in the chat asked, do the folk register their businesses with SARS at the end of the program?
That can be part of it. Yes, previous sponsors have requested that is part. We have an administration person in the classes to then assist them registering their business and having a registered business at the end of the day.
And then Andre with his hand up, if you can come off mute, Andre Peterson, ask your question.
Hi, Willem. Thanks for the presentation. Just a quick question. I mean, there's a lot of potential in going quickly to huge numbers and scale. What are your plans on maintaining your quality in terms of when you scale, in terms of resources, etc.?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And that's a very valid question. So our current capacity, we can do 500. We've already identified further trainers to double that capacity. I have spent I have a group of advisors and mentors about the scaling and management of the curriculum, moving to other areas as well, because we're already talking to French-speaking countries and other countries in Africa around this. So I already from last year, I started putting all the necessary quality control processes in place to ensure that we deliver on that. And that's also why our measurement and evaluation processes are so critical, so that we can measure the impact of a specific trainer on a group, but also the effects of if we make small changes to it. So yes, thank you for that. We have put the needed processes in place. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Willem, I'm going to hop between chat and hand
That's
up.
Fine,
so in the chat, Mlamuli is asking, please elaborate on how you help them start without funding, which seems to be one of the stories that people keep saying I can't do because I don't have money.
Okay. I found most youth remain unemployed and don't start businesses because of learned helplessness. They firmly believe in an almost biblical sense that it's impossible to start a business if it's not registered, you don't have a business plan, and you don't have funding. If you don't have those 3 things in place, they believe nothing can happen. So it's about starting small. To give you an example, one of the first cohorts, this guy was selling cleaning products to old gogos who can't walk to the store. So he would buy and bring to them. And he left class the Tuesday at noon, and that night, 8 o'clock, he WhatsApped me and said, I've got 20 clients. And I said, how are you funding this? And he said, I asked for 50% deposit, and everybody paid me 50% deposit. So it's about how do you hustle? How do you sort that problem out? Because if you can't prove you can't make money, how should I give you money then? So we really get people, you're not allowed to use the F word in our class. You can swear, but not say funding, because you need to come up with a new, innovative idea to do that. And that's how we help people start businesses without funding. And if you do have a business that needs funding, don't want something bigger, start another business that doesn't require funding. Make money, live, save, fund it yourself. Because if anybody in this call have any gone through the funding process, it's 7 to 8 months. By that time, the opportunity is gone. I hope that answered your question, Mlamule.
Brandon has his hands up. Take yourself off mute.
Thank you, Brandon.
Hi, Willem.
Hi, Brandon.
Willem, just a very basic question. We are involved in skills development, and sometimes language can be a problem. I mean, these are very important concepts you're conveying in the context of, do you have training in various languages?
Yes, we do. So I have Black language trainers as well, different African training languages. And we're expanding on that, on our trainers in that area specifically. So thank you for asking that. I didn't mention that. So yes, as far as we can, and we do our best. And if we don't, we will source, because I have a deep pool of trusted and reliable trainers that I can dig into and then upskill in that area. Thank you for that. Any other question, Brandon?
No, thanks, Willem. That's great. Thanks.
Absolute pleasure, man. Thank you.
And then in the chat, Ophelia says, how would an early stage solopreneur partner with the initiative? For instance, are you open to partnering with service-based businesses?
Okay, that's an interesting one. So let me just, Ophelia, let me try to, can you unmute yourself and explain it a little bit? I'm just trying to get the context right. If possible, if not. What I'm trying to understand, how would an early stage solopreneur partner with this initiative? That could be, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. For instance, I do market research for entrepreneurs. So I was just wondering if, in terms of the knowledge aspect, industry knowledge aspect, we could partner with that initiative in terms of getting people equipped to quantitatively identify opportunities in the market, trends, and so forth. And I heard you were mentioning skills development and so forth. So for businesses like that, independent entrepreneurship.
So in other words, you want to partner with us in providing services to these people that go through our program. Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm always open to that. Yeah. Like you can see here, I'm all about working together and how we can do this better. What would work in that situation is we would have to test adding your knowledge to a cohort and see what the effects on that would be and the success rates of the businesses and the growth of that. That would be great. So yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn, make a plan. Let's talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then hands up, we have LZ. Come off mute.
Hello, LZ.
Hey, Willem, sorry, I'm just muted. Willem?
Yes.
I'm trying to see how best I can word this. How do you add value? Because I see you put on there on this master torch that you link up with Dipsy Foundation. And I know theoretically what they say they do, and I know they take youngsters through lots of training and skills development, youngsters that have got a school education, but we know they come out of the trick and they're actually just not even capable or competent to start as entrepreneurs. So they theoretically, because I don't physically spend time there, I know that is what they're trying to do. They help kids. They do have apprenticeships, I think, in sewing and various other things. Why are you inventing the wheel and not just working with the likes of Africa Chicken and with the likes of Dipsy Foundation that already have a footprint?
Cool. No, thank you for that. Absolutely. So I've done a lot of work with Africa Cocoon and other organizations right through this. So it's not that I'm ignored. Like I said, I have agreements with others. I just, due to corporates and that long approach, I couldn't just smack their icon there or their logo there and go like, it's there. So no, absolutely. I agree with you. It's not that I'm reinventing the wheel. That's why I'm partnering with people who have the footprint. Yeah. No, I don't want to do that part. I'm not here to replace that. They do very good work at that, and to work in those communities and have those footprints there is a lot of work, and they do it very good. There's some very good organizations And yes, we are talking to them. So I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm simply going to them and say, listen, I have funding now. Let's run a program within your community. And we do. So now I help them to achieve their goals much quicker as well.
Okay, and I continue, because then at least like the money is not going to, because I think one of my questions I like tabbed down as I was taking notes is, where do you operate from? But they have a platform so that you don't have to necessarily create your own space, and the money doesn't go. It just go.
Yeah.
I guess trainers to the M&E to the accountants. So that's where, and why I say that, because I want to get back to that very first question, because I know there's probably a lot of these kind of mentorships happening in the townships, in these local communities, African Digital Foundation, many more. And I know friends that are working in that kind of NGO space, and there is kind of mentorship fatigue. Hence, the guy that one of the first questions, he said, do they want more mentorship or certificate, or do they just want cash to start the business? And I know that the F word is not the F word that you want to use. But the reality is, sometimes you just need that. And I'm not saying a lot of them, but sometimes, because some of these youngsters are very clever at hustling themselves, and they've got their own businesses. I mean, I've worked with Suits, Sneakers, Mark Sham. They're hustling, they're doing their own thing. On the back pyramid, if one thing goes wrong, I mean, a Google may be making petrol, and then someone's a gas bottle. Can't you replace it? No. That's the problem.
LZ, I'm so glad you're highlighting these things. And yes, with the fatigue, absolutely. It's training fatigue. People that's why ours is action focused. It's almost like an apprenticeship. You go and do entrepreneurship. So if somebody has that acumen to go and hustle already, which is going to improve that and get them to go there. Yes, I hear you on the small funding, and that's something that I am considering. In a previous cohort, we had Maki. I love Maki. Maki is 45-year-old. She's the most beautiful woman on earth because she's enjoying her business like a kid before Christmas. She runs a bakery. She does cookies and scones, but she doesn't own an oven. So she uses her cousin's oven. But now she started doing Fed Cook, and all that she needs is like $700 to buy a double burner stove and a gas bottle. So I think later on something like that would be great. But initially she showed that without an oven, she can start a bakery and make money. Now that is a prime candidate to go like, listen, here's $1,000. This is the loan term and everything else. Let's make it happen. Does that answer your question, LZ?
It does exactly. And I mean, I don't want to help, but it does exactly, because it's exactly that. For example, the problem is the infrastructure, the electricity security, and all these things. I mean, I just know, for a little example, someone in the township in Munseyville has just lost everything because of some illegal connections. So now he doesn't have a fridge, he doesn't have a stove, he doesn't have anything. Who had hustled and had got their business, how do they replace that? So it's all very well to say we create these entrepreneurs, we can create 500 businesses, but we know the reality of losing your funding. I mean, I know that for myself. I was also an entrepreneur, not in a micro business. And we also, what was our problem at the end of the day? We ran out of cash. That becomes the problem.
LZ, I want to share a very interesting story with you. In the August cohort last year, 2 guys came in from Orange Farm, and they wanted to start a food business. And eventually they said they're going to make kotas, the quarter loaf with the chips and the bologna in it. And then he came back a week later and said, we cannot start the business. The transformer blew up, so we have no electricity. So then they came up with a new idea of a different quota, because they can't make chips on a gas stove, or maybe on a fire. That's dangerous. So now they made it with mints, and it's the millionaire's quota. And over a period of 3 weeks, they started adapting the business. Now that they don't have electricity, don't have anything like that. 3rd week, they were doing 1,500 Rand in profits. The 4th week, they were doing 3,500 Rand in profits. Boom. And they adapted to the difficult circumstances that they have. And that's the key thing, LZ, that we're teaching people is, I like to teach philosophy, and it's always be like water. If you block water, it simply flows around it. And that's the key thing. When you run into something, be like water. Thank you, LZ. I appreciate it.
But in the chat, there's Thomas asks, how do the people, unemployed people, anybody who needs the program apply or register?
It won't be direct with me, unfortunately. It will be with the organizations that we do, because I don't, like LZ said, are you duplicating this? No, I'm working with the organizations. So I think the best would be, once the program starts gaining momentum, that we can create a central application process through the different organizations that we work with. But that's not for now. Now, most of these organizations that we partner with have enough people, and it's simple to start. Gina, thank you. We have one sponsorship. Gina, I appreciate Gina for doing that. Thank you very much. Anybody else with a question?
No, Sepang's still got his hand up, but I'm not sure whether it's left over from the last time he wanted to ask, or whether he has another question.
Yes. Okay. For that, ladies and gentlemen, please, you see the email address on there, hello@thehumanentrepreneur.org. I'm going to send you a recording of this, as well as a PDF document of detailing everything of Pass the Torch, and I want to engage with you. Let's get the first group going. Let's make this happen. If we don't start together, if you don't get involved in this, the future for South Africa and its people does not look good. So the future is truly in your hands. Support this, and let's make this happen. Thank you very much, everybody.